Talking Treasures, a CTV Perth production. Today we're here at the fabulous Rockingham Hotel and we're looking at some of the treasures that you at home have bought in for our experts to have a look at. Our experts today are Matt Donnelly, who specialises in collectibles, Gilly Hayes, who specialises in jewellery and silverware, John Stringer on fine arts, and Grant Stone on books and toys. Let's go have a look and see what they say about your treasures.
I've been joined by Mary, who's brought in a couple of maps. One's a folio volume, which we'll get round to talking about, and the other is this printed map in front of us, which shows the Allied front, or the advancement of the front in the Second World War, at the point where the Germans had taken over most of France. So we're at June 1940, according to the map's legend. A William Bromwich has drawn the map, and it's been published for wide circulation by the News Chronicle. It's a full colour map, and obviously the map has been heavily used during the Second World War by presumably someone who was trying to track the campaigns that were going on through the press. And they've got all this pinhole marks and such like at the top of the map where the map has been heavily used. How did this come into the family, Mary?
It was my dad's.
And you were living in the UK at the time? Was he, or was he here in Australia?
He was actually in the war. He was in North Africa and Italy. So I don't know where he got this or when. But
The publisher made the maps available through magazines and through newspapers. So sometimes you might have sent in a little bit of subscription money to get the map. Sometimes it might have been published as part of the paper. The folding marks don't indicate to me that it was actually given away as a freebie with the paper, because it's so heavily being folded. However, if it was bought to give the information that any person needed to understand where the war was up to. And your father obviously used it as a reference for him to work out where things were happening. I like the idea that there's a drop-in set for Asia, so that even the people in the UK were aware that the front of the Second World War was happening in more places than one, and that what was happening in Asia was of great effect on the Australians. So Northern Australia, even with Darwin marked here, which was the first thing the Japs bombed when they got close enough. In the terms of looking at the European theatre, though, which was the major interest of the map, you've got a lot of information here that someone at home, in their own home where the war wasn't, needed about where the Allies were. I don't know if the map was revised. That'd be interesting to know once the Allies got onto the European theatre and were pushing the Germans back, whether or not they published subsequent versions of the map to show where things were up to. Certainly from your father's point of view, I'd say the usage of the map meant it stayed essentially this map that he was using to plot the campaign. Coloured maps were expensive to make at the time, so this wasn't that cheap a map, but maybe you would have put 5 shillings to the press to gain a copy of the map to actually work its way into the home. It's not particularly valuable in the sense that there was so much information about the Second World War that was freely available, but as a keepsake and memento of the Second World War, it's fabulous, and it's a real reminder how much people need information during the war and how they need to be able to trust the information. So that's important. This other volume, though, tell me a little bit about this one, and it's got a vellum binding with a leather spine, and to me, as a book person, this book is going to be of some value once I open it up. And once I do open it up, I find a legend that has my heart go, how nice, and a date of 1748. So tell me about the volume.
It belonged to my great aunt, and when she died I was about 17, and we were looking through her things, and I just thought, that looks interesting, so I took it.
How many other books were on the shelf that you left behind? Did she have a big library?
She had a house full of antiques and all sorts of stuff.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So this wouldn't have necessarily been in her possession for a long period of time?
I wouldn't have a clue.
You wouldn't have a clue. It's an odd volume in that, although it looks to be in not brilliant repair, none of the plates are in terrible condition, and there are nearly 50 of them. They all have this form of binding where it's almost like a folio that's been prepared by the binder, where each map and each plate has been tipped into a salvage edge so that you can actually bind it into the full volume. Very easy to repair for a quality binder. After you go past the preliminary pages, there is really no text in this map. There are literally just plates. And interestingly enough, at the back of the volume, there is a listing of the plates. It seems to have been done in a copper plate hand by someone who's trying to find their way through their volume. I don't know whether this is printed or copper plate. If it's printed, it's a very nice copper plate printing, or otherwise it's been written by hand in ink so that you can actually find your way into the plates in the volume itself. 42 plates they're saying here. There's actually a page reference, which probably means that this is a set of plates that belong to another volume, the volume of text where Mr. Anon explained his voyage, and these were the plates that went with the voyage. But as these plates are separate, they can now be handled separately. So opening up one of these plates, this is a chart of the channel through the Philippine Islands that the convoy of boats made that he was party to. And this is a spectacular map by anyone's estimation. I'm gobsmacked. This is a very, very beautiful volume. And in terms of trying to get a handle on the sorts of offering that this meant, each one of these plates themselves, if they were framed prints, is worth hundreds of dollars. And as a volume of the plates together, even if you don't have the text to explain the plate's context, it's a very valuable document in itself. Maybe anywhere between $5,000 and $25,000, and I may be seriously underestimating that. The quality of the maps themselves is gorgeous, and the paper they're on is beautifully watermarked. It's very nice paper indeed. This is a treasure for a household, and if you're an owner, it's a treasure that you ought to regard as an investment, like a bank investment. It's never going to go down in value, it's only going to go up in value, and it's always going to be saleable. There are map collectors out there who would collect this volume. There are plates in here of illustration that would be collected for the illustration of shipping vessels, and if you can find the text that goes with it, you probably have an exceedingly valuable collection of material, which is not going to happen in our lifetime, is it? No. I'm always amazed that a volume like this has managed to live so well across the 300 years that there are between us and it. Remarkable.
Here with Wally today, and Wally's brought in a reproduction whale's tooth. Whereabouts did you come by this, Wally?
In Scotland.
Okay, and how long have you had it for?
30 years.
All right, and I'm excited to know how much you paid for it.
It cost me £9.
£9. Well, a £9 investment back then probably was a little bit of money, but you'd probably find today a piece like this would probably fetch somewhere around about $100 or $150 on the market. Unfortunately, it is a resin copy of a whale's tooth. If this was a genuine article, it could be $10,000, $20,000 or $30,000. That's the sort of money they're normally bringing for a genuine scrimshawed whale's tooth. But this one, unfortunately, is a resin one. But it still is a very nice piece, and as you can see, it's decorated both sides with the eagle on the back. And it would have been come from a big sperm whale if it was a genuine tooth. But we do get a lot of inquiries about these. They're very hard to tell the difference between a genuine one and a resin one. We've had lots of people come in always believing they're right, but the main giveaway in this one is the colour. If it had that crisp white colour, then you'd see some natural sort of marks up the top as well, and some better detail in under the bottom, and then you'd be sure it's a genuine piece. But over the years handled a number of them, and definitely a resin one, but nevertheless still a nice collectible piece and worth hanging on to, and quite an interesting item. So thanks a lot, Wally, for bringing it down today. It's good to see it.
Thanks for the information. Not a problem.
How did you come by them?
They actually belong to a friend of mine who we're looking after some of his things, and he said, I'll leave those in my trunk because I don't know if they're worth anything. So when I saw this advertised today, I thought I'd bring them down.
Yeah.
And I can let him know if they are or not.
Yeah. Well, they are real paintings. They're not reproductions. They're real things. They both look like Chinese junks to me. They're probably what I would refer to as tourist pictures. They're probably from a series that was done rather quickly. You can see they're somewhat formulaic, they put down a kind of background, and then they quickly sketch. Well, you know, they put down these flat colours, and then the fine lines are put on. Last of all, they need a little bit of a wipe. They're a little bit dirty. There's dust on them, and they're not in bad shape. But in any case, this is probably done for memorabilia and acquired by someone who visited the Orient. My guess is they probably came from Hong Kong or someplace like that. This one's in a little worse shape. There seems to be a bit of mould or something there that needs to be cleaned off. You need to be very careful if you're handling artworks, and it would be better to have to show it to somebody who is knowledgeable about conservation rather than clean it up yourself. I mean, it may be a simple task, but if you embark on it and something goes wrong, you ruin the painting.
Sure.
But they're just kind of typical touristy things of the kind that people like to come home. In fact, they are very similar, and this is why I think they were done in a production line. The basic shape of the vessel seems to be the same. It's just in it's got 3 masts. The right-hand one's only got 2, but they're obviously done by the same person at the same time, I should think. And they're probably turned out in some quantity and sold on the street, I imagine. And the age of them, I would put it about, I'd say early 20th century. They might be about the 20s, 1920s or something like that. No information on the back. There's nothing to indicate where they came from or how old they are. And they're painted on cardboard, probably when there is a kind of cardboard that's called academy board. It's a specially prepared thing which has canvas over the top, but this does not have canvas. It's just a straight board. But they're probably fairly soundly done, and they could be easily cleaned up and made look more presentable. They're quite decorative. And somebody might think they're worth $50, someone might think they're worth $200. Works of this kind intrinsically are not valuable, not especially valuable.
Don't go away, because after the break we'll be back with more from Talking Treasures.